Hello, everyone, to another podcast episode. This one, if you notice, the title is all about unleashing your lush potential, curiosity, awe, and wonder as the ultimate business game changer. And I wanted to share with you why this came up. So, for a number of weeks now, probably about 6 weeks, as I have been creating this new understanding of what Lush Business Mentorship actually is and following the breadcrumbs, I have been walking with this question around why is this different, right? It is a business mentorship, but it's not. And what does that mean? Which really has to do with my medicine, which is yes, I'm really great with strategy, but also the reason most people come to me is because they are spiritual entrepreneurs who have come and recognized the strategy is great. I can learn all the things, but there's a missing piece and component, and that's my inner dialogue with myself, my ability to understand who I am, what I have to offer, and how do I do this in the most magical way? Because I truly do believe that magic is real. And so at the same time, that feels really vague, right? What does that mean? Why would someone say yes to Lush versus something else? And of course, my ego says, why would someone say yes to Lush when there's amazing people out there who have huge communities, who have social proof, who have been on all the radio shows and the TV shows and have a book deal and all these reasons, and they talk about business, and they can probably get their people to these extraordinary places. So why me and what makes it different? And there was a conversation just the other day inside of a co-working session, which is a hybrid of co-working and getting feedback from me. So it's these leisure one-on-one coaching while everyone else co-works. And the luminary entered in and said, I absolutely Lush. I love Lush, even though it's only been a couple of days. And the reason being is that you remind me, even in the pain of my humanness and the human experiences I'm having, that I could go through that, move through it, and then also recognize that I could ascend above it and allow myself to be aware and be touched by grace. And you remind me of that. And I said, "Yes, thank you. Thank you for that." And that helped me walk with this question a little bit more, which is what actually, for a spiritual entrepreneur and business owner, who I'm talking about are all of you, life coaches and healers and space holders, what makes your business feel successful and makes it feel flourishing and divine? And it's when you tap into curiosity, awe, and wonder. Not when you tap into, "How do I do it? What's the strategy? What's gonna make me money? How do I get clients?" There's a different frequency to it, and because our eyes have been open to knowing that there is this collective consciousness of miracles that occur when we move through our perception and our limitations and our fears based on society's programming, that we can begin to come to another space where we claim ourselves. We cross the threshold and we say, no, fuck that. Like, I'm here for this. I'm here for me. I'm here to claim my goddess given right to be able to be happy and content and safe and secure and all those things. And so there's this different sense of awareness that occurs. And so as I've been going through this process, the way that I go through a process is I begin to wonder, what is it that makes the magic, right? So it's a big question. I don't really understand it now. And then I recognize what happens to me mentally, physically, and emotionally. And so what happened was physically, I all of a sudden started to get what felt like vertigo and lightheadedness. And I was having a hard time moving from one plane to another. So if I sat and I began to stand, I would feel really woozy. If I stood and then I went down to lay down and then I just tried to sit up, I would get really woozy. And it's still kind of happening right now. And I'm like, "Whoa, not only does that feel really not great and a bit nauseating, but also it's this interesting space of being in my body and not of my body, and almost this unsettling feeling as if there is no floor beneath me," right? And so that has been really fascinating. And so there's that part. And then there's another part where I recognize that I am starting to feel within myself this sense of desire to look at and watch reality TV. And so I've been watching reality TV, and often when I go into that space, I am watching it from my background in sociology. I'm like, what is happening? How is this occurring? Why are they making these choices? Look at this like community and look at how they do all their makeup and their hair and look how they speak. And I'm just fascinated. I'm not even judging. I'm just super fascinated by the experience and how I may or may not relate and what that means and where that's coming from. And I just get so intrigued. The other thing I've been doing is watching a lot of nature documentaries with my husband. And again, I'm in the space where I'm like, I did not know that. I knew nothing about that. And look at this and that. And it's just been fascinating. So as I've been exploring that, I'm like, what is going on with me? Why am I having vertigo? Why am I obsessed with reality TV? And why do I love documentaries that's filled with animals and nature right now? I'm not really sure what's happening. And so when my client, my luminary said that, the immediate understanding are three words that I often say to my clients in any of my group settings, in any of my offerings, which is I always say, get curious and go behind the pocket of your prayer and your inquiry. I also say, step into the unknown. You're not going to know. You're not going to have control. That's the beauty of having that slight fear of being in the unknown. I also talk about, can you step into awe and wonder? Awe in the space of this magnitude of, holy crap, right? This amazingness. And then this wonder, which is part curiosity, but it has no expectation as well. And so this divine space of great expansion that occurs. And so I started to look at that, right, for myself. What does this really mean? How do I actually engage in that way? How am I inviting other people to do so? And this is where I would love for us to have this conversation and for you to begin to notice for yourself. Do you truly step into pure curiosity, awe, and wonder, or do you actually step into the shadow qualities of it? Because that's the next stage I went into, which is, and this is the expansive state. What is the shadow quality state? And I did this all by myself. I did not look at ChatGPT. I sat there and walked with it, being like, what are the shadow qualities? What are the things that I go into? What I've seen? What have I seen in my client? And I've just kind of been walking with it, right? Okay, so before I get to those pieces, the one thing that I found though, as I begin afterwards, after putting this together and putting my like notes together on this, is a word that I don't ever say. And it was perfection when it came to getting even more curious. And the word was sublime. And what I loved about it was from the perspective of artistry, that artists and writers and creators and creatives talk about this space and this feeling of sublime, which I loved because what it did was it merged curiosity, awe, and wonder alongside a dash of fear, fear of the unknown. I was like, oh my gosh, there's a word for this. And the word is sublime. And yes, sublime has the space of transcending and having this spiritual connection, right? This awakening or transformative experience. It also has the space of excellence, but not excellence in regards to you have to be perfect, but it's like your inner illuminating qualities hitting this tone and that frequency that you're like, yes, that is pure perfection of me as a direct reflection of my imperfect humanness. It is perfect. There's that quality to sublime. And so I wonder if my devotional even decree is that when luminaries enter, my hope is that I have them and hold them in their space of feeling sublime, that their content, their execution of stuff, their body of work reaches that space of sublime and excellency because they know who they are so well. And so Let's talk a little bit about what I've come to recognize as the three: curiosity, awe, and wonder. And then I'm going to talk about the shadow qualities and give you some examples and then some tips around it. Okay. Based on me really feeling into this, my personal experiences that I'll share, and also what this might mean for you all, because my job here inside of Devoted Way podcast is to make sure that you're feeling served. Right. Okay. So curiosity, here we go. Curiosity is all about asking questions, right? You don't know it, you want to attain some knowledge. You're getting a bit of that excitement because you're like, ooh, you're wanting to satiate this need of knowing something or having an answer. And so you get really curious. And so the beauty of the vibrational tone and frequency of the pure expression of curiosity to me is this engagement of depth, this space of wanting to be the explorer, and that you are seeking some wisdom. And so you are so open to going on a journey. Amazing, right? Okay, so then what happens though? What's the shadow to that? You're excited, you're going on this journey, you have these questions, and you are eager to seek the knowledge. But then there's a sense of desperation, you have an expectation, you start all of a sudden overthinking, you second guess it. Now you wondering the knowledge that you have seeked out, how do you begin to honor it for yourself? You are wondering what is the quote right answer based on society's programming of the fact that there might be this right or wrong rather than this gray line of in between space. And so you're relentless now, right? There's almost an obsessive quality to it, and you don't want to let it go. You're no longer in this divine place of curiosity. You're in this obsessive space of seeking knowledge based on right and wrong. I see this often. I'm going to give Eric as an example, my husband. He is an artist. And there's this moment and this cycle of curiosity around when he creates. And there is this moment where he gets really curious about something. And so, for example, he was doing a graphic novel around ants. And so he started to go to the park and he started to watch ants. And then he started to learn more about them and research them. There was another time when he was really focused on the Korean War, and he wanted to know about, he was crafting a story around this particular Korean girl during the Korean War. And he was also sketching a lot. And he started to get really curious about the history. And he went down and he started to research a lot. But what happens is, let's say a month, 2, 3 months later, now he's just in it. And instead of going through the drawing part of it, he's still in that research mode. Why? Because he's now relentless for the search of knowledge. It's not a curiosity to help support him in moving in his evolution, right? He's now stuck. That's being in the shadow. Okay. So what about awe? I'm looking down, so I'm going to be really clear. So I'm looking at my notes here. So for awe to me is this real emotional response, and it takes my breath away, right? It makes me feel like I am everything and nothing at all, as if I'm in that energetic field is how I feel. I feel so small, and it doesn't feel bad small. It feels small compared to the vastness and the greatness of life. And I'm so grateful that I get to experience a sliver of this, because I am just this 5'1" person in the vastness of something else, which could be when I was in Iceland and I saw for the first time the Northern Lights. I was just like, oh my gosh, like, what in the world? I could just dissipate right now and it's okay. Or when I went up to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, or even the journey, because it's through different ecosystems. And I was just amazed. I was like, how did we go from 4 hours into this to 4 hours into this? This is incredible, right? So there's a spark of awe that creates this magic because there's something bigger than us. And you don't care that there's something bigger than us. The issue with it in the shadow is that it can very quickly turn into, especially when it's, let's say, a person or an ideology or a book or something that you aspire to, there's then a sense of jealousy that you start actually feeling small in your own limited beliefs and based on your lived wounds. And you start feeling really small. And so there's a jealousy quality to it. But more than that, there's a sense of rather than feeling the belonging you felt when you were in awe, because you were connected to it all, and yet a small part of this huge wonder, you start feeling like you don't belong. And so there's this melancholy feeling of it's not attainable. It's just not attainable. And so that's the shadow quality. So if I see, for example, I love documentaries where you notice, like there was the documentary of Beyonce, and it was about her tour. And I was watching it, or Taylor Swift, and I was watching it be like, "Oh my gosh, look at this person. It is amazing." I was in awe. I was awestruck by the magnitude of their devotion, what they would do, how they would create. It was incredible. And to see them on stage, and I could see myself being like, "I love being on stage," which I really do. I would love to be a performer in some way, but in my own spiritual way. I have these visions and dreams, right? So I'm in this awe space of I'm the small part of this huger thing, and oh my gosh. But then very quickly it goes down to, but I'm not a Beyonce. I'm not a Taylor Swift. I won't have those opportunities. Who am I to consider being on stage? What that just actually feels really, really awful, right? And so there's an inadequacy that I go into, but also then I could look at maybe someone that's in my field and be like, I don't like them. Really, in reality, I might be jealous of them. And so we move into that space rather than awe. Okay, lastly, wonder. So wonder to me is this openness to experience something fully because you are so enchanted and captivated by the mystery of it. You're like, "What is this?" Right? And so you are inquisitive in your nature, but instead of the curiosity being this kind of what I wanna say, like this action-oriented seeker of knowledge, so you're gonna go ahead and ask the questions or look for the information. Wonder to me is more about stepping back and being like, "Look at that. How is this even possible?" Right? What is the mystery of this goodness? Without ever actually thinking, "I'm gonna understand it all." That there's no doubt in me that I'm never gonna understand it. You can talk quantum physics, you can talk about your neuroplasticity and the scientific background. I'm just gonna think it's wonderful, and I'm gonna be in wonder because I don't fully digest it. It's all good. It's okay, I'm not a scientist, right? And so I'm just I don't know, I'm literally marveled by the experience. I'm just like, "What?" And that's all I have to be. I just have to be in the place of, "Wow," and that's it. And so I'm just gonna be like, "Give me more. Let me experience it more." I don't need to even understand it. I just wanna be in the experience of it. I just wanna be in your space. Like, just give it to me, give it to me. This is so good. So what's the shadow quality of wonder? Is when you reduce that feeling of, "It's just so good. I don't even care what." Like, I'm just gonna be in it and trust and have faith and believe. I'm gonna have belief and faith and trust. Those 3 words, I believe, are associated with it, with wonder. So what's the shadow quality? When you diminish all of that, and you diminish it by believing that there is a puzzle to solve and there is a logical understanding, and that you must have a linear approach to this and have a set of strategies or a set of steps to attain this feeling once again. Okay. To me, that is literally losing respect for this experience and diminishing it. And so I find that, for example, I don't actually really have this experience. Okay, I do have this experience in a slightly different way, but I also see a lot of other people have this. Let's say it's the first time you've had an experience where you connected with a plant ally. One of the places you enter into is incredible wonder. And you are so present that for myself, I don't ask the question, why? Why? What does this mean? I don't care. I am just like, wow, this is amazing. Thank you for the information. And the more I say that and I just simply be with it, there's more connections that are made and I'm not chasing it, right? So when I come out of that journey, I know that I'm going to be walking with that journey for at least a year. And so I just kind of take notice, but I'm not actually trying to understand and find the solution to it, nor am I trying to attain that kind of feeling in the journey space that I do through an alternative consciousness based on plant allies in other ways. I'm not so focused on attaining that over and over again. I know that it is a very sacred gift and I'll return to it, usually a year later, but that's around it. But when you're reducing it all to be like, how do I go back to that? How do I go into that state again? What do I need to do? What are the 3 steps I need to do? You're losing the point. You're totally losing the point. And so, why do I share this? Because I find that's what happens with spiritual people and business. That the reason they get overworked, they get confused, they don't know what's happening, they are struggling, they are getting more certifications, they are looking at all the strategies, is they forget the curiosity, the awe, and the wonder. They move into their healing journey and they want to be a successful space holder, life coach, and healer because they see in their clients the curiosity, the awe, and wonder. They themselves know that's the potent medicine, but in their humanness, they forget that that's how they actually create a thriving business. And so they go into a space of second guessing, overthinking, relentless in their knowledge, feeling they need to prove themselves, being jealous, um, demoralizing themselves, having a sense of longing and regret, feeling melancholy, being all in logic, constantly struggling, and being in a linear space. Okay. So, what do we do? Right? Why is curiosity and awe and wonder a important way of living and self-expression to help with your business? And what are some of the tools to help you get there? Right? That's might be where you're in a space of curiosity yourself. Or you're in a space of like yearning and desiring that information. And so then you're in the shadow qualities of curiosity. Either way, I'm here to help you. Okay. So when we think about awe, to me, awe is around literally the energetics of awe. Or let's go into, yeah, the literal energetics of awe to me is around expanding perception and perspective. To go outside of your limited understanding of things and being able to open it up so that you have a new way of being that is so much more aligned with your essence. And so this is where it's all about reframing or noticing your vocabulary and your thoughts and your statements and saying, is that really true? Why is it that that's actually the statement that immediately comes to me when I first go into that limitless possibility? And how about we stop self-focusing on the no's and the can't and instead expand it into a place of what if, right? And so the expanding perception here is before you go into a journaling practice, we have to be in the state of awe. And so how do we get into the state of awe? We look at art. And so this is where the state of awe to me is the spiritual inspiration that hits you, that divine space of inspiration. So where do you get that? For me, I get that in nature. I get that through nature documentaries. I get that by hiking to a waterfall and looking at this waterfall being like, "Oh my gosh." I look at videos of photographies of, like, flowers that have gone in full bloom and then have their petals lost and then continue and thinking, "Oh my gosh, look at this natural cycle of life." I go into these documentaries on YouTube specifically around, ceramic pottery and those that do amazing pottery work that are Korean, because it's an art form that is culturally something that we have that is a rich part of our culture, and their artistry is impeccable. I just love it. So I watch ceramic pottery all the time, be like, "These folks are amazing." Also, what if you went to art galleries or you went to a new town an hour away, right? How can you regularly remove yourself from the constant situation you're in into a different space specifically to meet and greet the frequency of awe? Okay. When it comes to curiosity, to me, curiosity creates an incredible place of honoring learning as a lifelong learner who recognizes you're never going to understand everything by the time you take your last breath, and that it's just seeking out knowledge for the delight of it more than you being able to then use it for something. And as coaches, often we delight in knowing something so that we think, how do I use this? How do I make profit of it? I love this so much. How do I get other people to experience it? Right? But what if there's certain parts of you that gets curious just for the sake of getting curious? That it doesn't become your net $197 course. And so here's where learning and growth based on new experiences occur. And so the inquisitive mind is here to be satiated by something that is very pleasurable, that you have passion around, that you know for sure that you've created a guideline that you do not want to have any sort of monetary exchange for this at all, ever. Right? So, for example, I love um, outfitting myself, right? I love graphic design and color and font. Do I ever want to be a graphic designer or be someone who works with people and in fashion and their clothes and outfitting there? Absolutely not. That is not what I want to do. Do I enjoy it? Yes. Have I started to learn a little bit more about color for myself? Yeah, right. Do I love to fiddle with design for myself? Absolutely. Do I use it in my work? Sure, because I create graphics. But do I do it because I know I'm going to get money for it? No, definitely not. Right. And so there is this space, or I love reading paranormal fantasy fiction. Do I want to all of a sudden create a blog post or do a complete reel every time I read a book to talk about it and invite people to go ahead and purchase it or get it on their Kindle Unlimited? No, I don't. I don't tell anyone what I read often because I don't want any discussion. I just want to sit there and read my book and enjoy it and be in a place of real curiosity around what's going to happen with my shifter. Or my witch. Like, that is what I wanna know. I don't need anyone else's comments around it, right? Or be a seeker in knowledge in more than I already have the capacity for. And so, to me, it's about that, like, reading the books that you enjoy, engaging in conversations with people that you might not have conversations with, or engaging in conversations with people you do have conversations with, but about something that is vastly different what than you usually do. I love having conversations with my dear friends because the way we start off is how are you arriving? Just the question I ask in devoted circle training over and over again. And we ask the question, how are you arriving? And the way we answer is, how am I arriving? And we go through a sensory experience. I'm noticing that I am still tasting the strawberry in my strawberry granola, and it's really making me feel delightful in that. I'm also noticing that my heart is a little tender due to the fact of X, Y, and Z. And I'm recognizing that my mind right now is desiring for me to share with you X, Y, and Z. There's a completely different way of being able to share with your community members, with your friends, with your colleagues that is not so transactional even in your conversation. So that's the fostering of learning of curiosity, even how you dialogue with someone else. And so embracing the new experiences to me is key, right? Okay, so based on those two, why am I sharing this in regards to LUSH? Because I do believe that is what we do in LUSH. And then I'm going to go into other things, including wonder and awe and wonder. So the reason when it comes to awe and shifting our perspective is, um, I was just talking to a dear mentor of mine and friend, very good friend, um, and yesterday, and we were talking about we were baby entrepreneurs. We started back in like 2012, honestly. And in 2013, we had gathered together. We saw each other and met for the first time, 2013. And we were talking about how we miss old school mastermind. Oh, how we miss them and how Lush has that flavor. Because in these masterminds, including the one I said yes to in 2012, right? It's 2024 right now. So in 2012, I went into a mastermind. I paid, I think, for 9 months, it was like $14,000. It was still a hefty price tag even then. So anyway, what I loved about it is there wasn't much to it. I feel as if nowadays there's an expectation that you must provide an arm and a leg and your soul and your heart for what it is you offer. The beauty of old school was that it wasn't about all the things. It wasn't about all the shiny things and the bonuses. We came together. We were really honest. We cried and we shared our fears. We invited new ways of thinking and having these audacious ways of considering our life. We had a group of people who said, fuck yeah, you can do this. No one told you what homework you needed to do. No one told you the step-by-step experience you needed to have. Everyone threw out ideas, and it was your job, based on self-agency and self-respect for yourself, to try and figure out the experience that you needed to go through by healing the internal self and being inspired, and then saying yes and trying things out because no one else was doing it at that time, right? It's why we made such quantum leap. It wasn't about the strategy. It was about the group saying, you can do this. Why do you think you can? Why do you feel like this is the next step? All right, cool, go. We expect it to happen. And then the amount of shifts that would occur and people's ability to make choices, discern what they need to do next, ask for help, get opportunities, go through the experience, put shit out was incredible without necessarily the hustle either. And so I love that, right? And so even the past mastermind I was in, it was 6 months. It was a little, I think it was $10,000 too. I'm putting out names, I'm putting out money so that you understand kind of also where things lie sometimes. And again, in that experience, we came together, I think like once a month or twice a month. Once, usually there was a speaker. The other, there was some magical homework to do. And the rest of the time, it was us as a group being like, you can do this. And then we were all quiet. We did not really connect in that way, except saying, you can do this. And then we honored our own homework that we did on our spiritual sense. We came together on retreat. We loved each other up. We brewed that cauldron of goodness, and everyone had these epic manifestations that occurred. That was it. Why? Because there was curiosity, awe, and wonder. And so that's what Lush does, right? The reason Lush, or I hope people begin to understand about Lush, is you enter in for curiosity, awe, and wonder, and then make quantum shift. That what we do is the magical spiritual practices that you do as soul work, and you go out there and you have to do it yourself. Yes, you do. And then you come back and you ask for feedback and love and support, and you have me encourage you, and you have me remind you to have faith and belief and trust in yourself, and to stop staying in the space of smallness and doubt and insecurity and all those things. When, yes, move through it to get to the other side, right? Okay. So that's why we have communal experiences together, and why there's like one-on-one sessions with me, and why there is the magical component to it. And then you get to go off and do the business stuff. And then you ask me questions, right? But I can't handle you. I don't want to. It's not my medicine. It's not my job. My job is to hold the frequency of shocking your system into this awe place of magic and your intuitive abilities. It's actually in my human design, right? Okay. So last thing is I'm going to talk about enhancing connections, because that's what awe, wonder, and curiosity does. Specifically awe and wonder. Because what happens is when you're in awe and wonder, you realize you belong. Hey, that's it. And once you realize you belong, you begin to validate yourself all the reasons why the hard lived experiences that you had of not belonging is not true anymore. Once you put your 2 feet on the floor and say, I belong. And so awe and wonder makes you recognize that you are part of this incredible, huge ecosystem. When you look up at the stars and you notice the vastness of it, and you're like, I am from there. I am made of stardust. I am the cosmos. What? I belong. Or you look at Mother Earth and you're like, oh my gosh, look at Mother Earth and her ecosystem and how intelligent it is. And I am part of her. I am damn intelligent with my cycles and rhythms. I belong. That space. So when you're in that, you then recognize the interconnectedness, which allows you to actually feel like you belong with people, that you can find a way to connect with community members, which then allows you to have sacred reciprocity and begin to have this natural sense and rhythm of receiving and giving with your colleague inside of LUSH, for example, with your luminaries, with your clients, with your community members, without having to feel like you're over giving, being over generous, overthinking, or any of that. I want to see more people make a lot of money in their business by showing up more than doing all the things. That it is you and your ability to honor your craft and know how you belong by your medicine so that you are showing up in that, because that's the impact that is made through the interconnectedness of the collective healing that happens when it's more than one person. Okay. Oh, goodness. All right. So, and when it comes to receiving all this is where I do invite you to then come to a place of journaling, right? You're going out in nature, you're looking at art, you're looking at documentaries, you're looking up at the stars, you're having these amazing experiences, and then you go into a place of play. It's why curiosity is always called like childlike, or wonder is called childlike wonder. Children wonder and they get curious. Do they always have to know the answer to it? No, they're simply saying, oh my gosh, look at the butterfly and how it comes out, right? And they're just like delighted and they giggle. I love newborns or toddlers when they giggle. They're in total utter joy, and they're in a place of incredible wonder. So, how can you tap into that childlike wonder and get curious with no expectation? What does that look like and mean? And so we often talk about inside of Devoted, the game that we play, which is not from me, of course. It actually comes from improv and comes from design thinking, which is the game of what if. And so, what if? The what if in the game of improv is that when you're working, and this again is communal, you don't do it by yourself, right? Which is why Lush is so incredible. So, when you're doing this communal aspect of improv with what if, it is one person say, what if? What if there was a dinosaur that was seated in the chair right now? The rule is you can never say no. You can only enhance what was shared. So another person would say, what if there was a dinosaur was it a dinosaur I said? I don't even remember anymore. What if there's a dinosaur that is in the chair or a dragon that is in the chair and they are ready to take flight into the conch shell? Great. What if there is a dinosaur in the shell, a dinosaur ready in a chair to go take a flight in the conch shell, to then go into a portal into the celestial realm to meet Kuan Yin? And you just keep going. And it's just delightful, right? The same idea, which you can do for a writing activity. I've seen that done in that way too. But I've seen it in improv and it's just, oh, so good. But you can do it with yourself in your life. What if? What if I was able to retire in 10 years? What if I was able to retire in 10 years and still love my work and I retired just for the sake of knowing I had enough money to go and do whatever it is that I effing want, but I did enjoy working with people. And what if in that moment in time, I had thousands of people in my community, that I was reaching 100,000 people in my community? What if I was able to actually hold that space? What if in that time I was also a published writer who had 3 books that were done in this incredible way that was channeled through and very different than anyone else? What if in that space and time, right? So what happened? Your mind goes into not wonder, curiosity, and awe. It goes into, how would I write that book? What would that book be about? What would be the titles? Do I need to take a class on writing right now? Who is going to be the publisher? No one's going to want me. You completely diminish the entire experience. That is what you do, and that is why we get stuck. I'm not just talking about you, right? That's why I need to be in a group myself, and that's why I need my divine coach and colleague and now incredibly good friend, Victoria, because as a Manny Gen, she's like, "What if?" And I'm like, "Yes, what if?" And it's not a sense of, "No, you can't." And that's what you need. You need someone cheerleading you on, being like, "No, no, no, no. Don't go back into that space. Don't go diminishing yourself. We keep going. Keep going into that wild, audacious vision that you're going to illuminate." I'm getting really hyped up because I love Lush for this reason. And I don't find that possibly there's a lot of spaces where there's that spiritual component alongside of the cheerleading and the business space that you can honor while also moving through your shit. Not saying that we don't move through shit. We do, for sure. But what I'm saying is we move through it specifically to then get to the other side and immediately say, okay, what's next? We're going back into that wildly audacious vision. So, yeah, I honor that each and every one of you has a business that you are deeply desiring to commune with and put out there in the world. I simply encourage you to consider what if. What if at this point, just for now, it's not about another course and maybe it's not about another certification? Not that it won't later, because we're lifelong learners. But what if we can get curious about yourself, your inner self, your medicine, your magic, your body of work? And what if what you need right now is a community of folks that inspire you, that gets you curious, that you are in awe of, and that you are deeply in love with because you're in this wondrous space of, how in the world did I get to be here? And what if there was a person who loved you up and supported you and guided you and reminded you, let's go through the healing and then let's go. Okay, join us for Lush. Blessings to each of you. Thank you so much for listening to this longer podcast, honoring you. Bye for now.